Hello, I'm Crafty Patty. Thanks for tuning in to watch how to make this beautiful, delicate looking macrame bag with a crossover shoulder strap and a drawstring enclosure. It will fit a change for cell phone and keys, or perhaps even your water bottle. It's a full step-by-step tutorial, so keep watching so you can make your very own bag. I wanted a nice, small, light, over-the-shoulder bag that would hold my 3 items that I quite often go out of the house with: wallet, cell phone, and my keys. There's 2 ways that you can work on your macrame. If you find it's hard to stand for long periods of time, then you can sit and do your work. So I've just cut a couple pieces of corrugated cardboard and taped them together, and I will do my macrame while I'm sitting and work on this board, and you can secure it with some sewing pins. I'll start the video showing you how I do that, and then I will finish off by supporting it on my door with the little tiny hooks that go over the top of your door, and I will hang it off the hooks here, and that goes a lot faster. I'm choosing not to use the regular macrame cord because I want a really delicate, fine look. So I'm going to be using the Bernat Handicrafter 100% cotton yarn. And to get myself started, I always pull from the center of the ball of yarn, and you'll find that that will just help so it doesn't roll all over the place when you're pulling out the yarn from the center of the ball. So how do you figure out how long to cut your cords? This is the strap section, so it's going to be a lot longer than when we're going to work on the actual bag portion. But what I would do is I would bring this around my neck because it's going to be an over-the-shoulder bag. And then I'm just going to bring that down to about where the end of my fingers are, just an approximation. All right, so I'm going to take that length and I'll measure that for you, and let's see what we've got. And that measurement measures to almost 2 yards, or that would be 1.83 meters. So let's just bring that up to 2 yards just to make it easier for calculations. So we need to cut 12. So I'll go ahead and cut my 12, and then we'll start making our strap. Now we want to find the middle of all our cords. So I've got my 2 ends here, and I'm just going to bring it up until I find the middle. And there's the middle of all my cords. And I'm just going to place my cords on the board, and I'll just tape them for now through the middle here. And the idea of this is because this is such a long strap to work on, I'm going to be working on this end, and then I'll turn it around and I'll work on this end just to make it a lot easier, and then you don't have so much strands to pull through every time. And then with each of these strands, I like to find the end and roll it up into a little bit of a ball here, and then you can just pull out the amount you need when you're ready. So just like so, and then I just add an elastic through the middle. Like so. And then when you're ready to pull out more cord, you just take it and you pull on it, and then you've got more pulled out. So I'll do that to the rest of my cords, and then we will start. Okay, so find your first 4 cords and put the others to the side for a minute. And now we're going to find our 2 outside cords and our 2 inside cords. I'm going to take a bowl clip and just attach it onto the end here And you'll find that by keeping these two base cords tighter, it's a lot easier, a lot faster to do all your knots. So now we're going to start our first square knot. So we're going to be bringing our left cord over our two base cords. I'm going to hold that with my thumb. And now we're taking this right cord, it's coming over, under, and through this loop. Pull that up. We started on the left, and now to complete a square knot, you need to now start on the right. So bring your right over your two middle cords, and you can hold with your thumb. And now you're bringing your left one, that's going underneath and up through that hole. And pull that through and cinch up your square knot. And our whole design is doing two square knots together. And now let's do that again. Left over, hold with your thumb, right over, underneath, and through the hole. That's your first part of your square knot. You started on the left, now we have to complete it by starting on the right. Right over, hold with your thumb, left over, underneath, through the hole, and cinch it up. Now we're finished with those four cords. Let's bring the next four cords in. And there's our next four. And find your two middle cords. Okay, and then once you've got your four cords all nice and neat and tidy, take off your bowl clip, find your two middle cords again, and let's add the bowl clip to these ones. And again, left over your two base cords. And that's that section. And again for the last four. There's our first row, two square knots, two square knots, and two square knots. And now we're going to alternate. So we're going to take away the left two. We're going to grab these two and the next two from the next square knot. And we're going to form our square knots with these four cords. And that was our first one we alternated with, and now we're going to alternate over here, taking the remainder two from the right side of the above knot and taking the first two from this side and not using the other two. Let's find our middle cords and secure those at the end of the board. Now find your four middle cords. So we're going to take away this one and take away this one. And now we have our four middle cords. And again, fasten off your two middle cords with your bowl clip. Just makes it easier. And again, left over. And once you've got some of your work done, you can also come in with your pins, and that will also help to hold it in place for you while you're doing your work. And now you want to work with your last 4 cords right here. Here's your middle ones. And now what will happen, you'll have a little bit of a drag coming down, and that's just part of the design. So you've got 3 here, and then you've got 2. So now we need to come back in here. And then when you pull up on this one, you're only going to come up to that last knot in the middle. And this is where you'll get the drag on the outside as part of the pattern. And again. And let's come over and do the same thing to the other side. Finding your last 4 cords. So up close now you can see the design is you've got your 3 square knots, 2 each. And then down here to alternate you've got 2 and you've got the drag on both sides. And now we've got our 3 again. And then we're going to go back and do 2, alternating 2. So we're going to repeat this and keep going all the way down. And then find your next 4. Two far ones get left out. Again, there's the 3 and the 2. Here's the 3 and the 2. And this is where your 4 cords will have the drag again, and this will drag down to form your knot here, and you'll have your 3 again. 1, 2, 3. Keep going. Okay, it's time to start working off the door. Okay, so here's the other end of the strap that I'll be working on later. And then what I want to do is just adjust it so it's at a good working height for me. And then what I like to do is just make a slip knot. So just make a loop like so. And then this comes through to make another loop. And then I can place it on and it just slips up. And then I've got a good working height here for me. And I can do the same with this one again. Making that little loop. This end comes through to make a loop, and I can push that up on here as well. And again, just to make it more secure for doing your knots, I just, again, come in with some masking tape and mask it off. It'll stay nice and still for you. And now that I'm going to be working off the door, I'm going to remove my elastics from my bundles. This is much easier when you're sitting. But when you're standing, I find it much easier to pull my lengths through. So I'll continue to remove the rest of my elastics, and then we'll continue on with our macrame. And again, alternating. And the next 4. We've now got our 2, and we'll start our next row with the 4 cords on the left, and again you'll have the drag. Continue on. We are working on the one side of our strap right now, so we want to know how long to make that. So I've taken a string and I've measured to the top of my hip and to the side of my neck. I've remeasured again, and I think I'm going to make my shoulder strap just a little bit shorter than I originally thought. So I'm going to actually make this now come down to 24 inches, but every body type will be different, so you have to measure what works for you. So 24 inches, which is about 61 centimeters. So now we can start working from the other end. So we're going to just take this off. I have marked my last row with a safety pin so I know where I'm at. So let's just take this and turn it the other way. And we're going to be just hanging it so it's at a nice level, which is probably about here for me working on it. So that works out perfectly. I'll just tuck it into my last little macrame row there, and I will start working on it again. And I forgot to mention for you, it's going to be easier to join this into the rest of the bag if you end on the 3 square knots going across rather than the 2 with the drag. So end on the 3. And now you can carry on as before with your alternating of your square knots. I ended on the 3, and I'm coming back in to alternate with my row of 2 square knots. The next step, you want to figure out how big you want to make your bag. I want these 3 items in my bag, so this gives me an idea of how long I want it. I want to leave a few inches up on the top here for gathering later, and I'm going to leave a little bit for a fringe down in here. So I'm going to estimate it 12 inches, or that would be about 31 centimeters. And to cut my strands, I'm going to times that by 5. So 12 times 5 equals 60 inches, so that would approximately 1.5 yards, or about 1.52 meters. And now take one of your strands that you've just cut, find your 2 ends, and then come up and find your middle. Take that and pin it onto your board, and then take a second cord again, find the middle, pin that right beside the other one up onto the board, close to the other one. Find your 2 middle cords, and I'm working on a table right now, so I like to secure these 2 middle cords just with my knee, like so. And then these 2 middle cords stay stable, and it's much easier for you to come in to make your square knots. So again, just like before, left over, right over, behind and through. Cinch that right up to the top, right over, left over, behind and through. And the whole bag will be with 2 square knots throughout the whole bag to make the design nice and easy. So I'll just do one more. And we've done our 2 square knots. Now I'm going to show you when we take this off the board. There's the 2 square knots you've formed, 1 and 2. I want you to pull down on these middle cords, and you'll see that these little loops up in here that we tied it on with the pins, we want those to tighten up a bit. So we just pull down, and you can see it tighten up at the top there. Watch this one. And the other side. And we've now tightened them up. And I'll do that once more for you. Taking one of your cut cords, finding the middle, pin it on your board. And removing it from the board and pull in the top part of the knot. like so. Okay, make a bunch more. Your next measurement that you need to figure out is how wide do you want your bag. I want mine just a little bit wider than the items that I'm going to put in my bag. And that is going to be about 6 inches. That would be approximately 15.24 centimeters for our width. Now that we know how wide we want it, then we can figure out how many macrame cords we're going to need to make 6 inches or 15.24 centimeters. And I've decided to stop here. It ended up being that I could fit in 13 of my little sections here that we made individually into my 6 inches or approximately 15 centimeters. And so now what we want to do is we want to add in our strap that we made. So we're going to add that just to the left here. And that will be the one side, and then we'll add the strap to here, and it'll join into another section that we'll have for our back. So here's our strap, and what I want to do is line up those 3 last double square knots with my square knots on the top row here. So that's where it's going to sit. So we'll just put that in place here. So here's the strap that we've just added. Let's take our last section from our strap here, and we're going to divide that in 2. Take these 2 away, and we're going to use these 2 and the 2 beside it on the next knot, the 2 left from this knot here. And those are the 4 cords that we're going to do our next square knot with. Again, 2 square knots as before. So there we've started to join in our strap. Once you've got this side of the strap attached to your strands here, then you can bring this around, making sure it's not twisted. You can lift it up like this, and that will guarantee that it's sitting the right way. And then you can bring this up, matching up your square knots again, and then join in this side as well. And then here's our last one we attached here, taking your last 2 on the right side of this square knot and picking up the first 2 from your strap, and that will form your first groupings of your square knots. Again, making your 2 square knots. And continue along this way and this way. So you have your handle attached here. You have your handle attached in the middle. And I have gone ahead and I've attached another 13 sections over here, exactly the same as this. But I've gone ahead and done all my alternating square knots, and I've just kept going down until it forms a triangle. The only reason I've done that is because these side ones will have to get joined in to the other side of our handle. But we can work on this side first, and then we can turn it around, and then we can finish up on the back side. Now you don't have to do a triangle, you can just keep going back and forth and back and forth, but you will have some left over on the sides because, like I said, we need to join this to the right side. And then you're just going to keep going until you've got the depth of the bag that you want. Mine will probably be just to about here. So because I've joined this side now, I can continue to work this side of my triangle to blend these cords into my new section. So again, as before, you just find your 2 on your right of this knot and the 2 on the left on the next knot, because you're alternating, and go ahead, continue all those lovely square knots, 2 each time, and this will fill in this section here as well. And eventually we will have it straight across. So I just kept alternating my 2 double square knots, leaving 2 out on each side until I had the length that I wanted. Wow, how's that for estimating, for not having much waste? This is the longer parts from the handle. So if you want your bag longer than this, then do cut your lengths a bit longer, but this is fine for me. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this off the board so we can work our other side and fill in this portion of the remainder of the bag. And so we're going to have to take this board away because it's going to be too wide to wrap my 2 sides together to meet. So I have cut a smaller board that will fit to bring my 2 sides together. So if I wrap this one around and wrap this one around, we can join them up and then we can continue with our knots. And so I'm just going to place my pins in again so we can match this up a little bit to hold it in place while we start our next knots. And find your 2 strands from your section on the left and your 2 first strands from where you brought in your strap, and we're going to alternate with those 4 cords, and again 2 each until we filled in this section, and it's the same length as what we did on the back or the front side. I've made both sides the same, so there's not really a front or a back, both the same. And there's my first 2 to join in my sections. And of course, again, splitting in 2, grabbing the next 2, and on you go and fill in this whole section with alternating 2 square knots each time. And so I will see you again when I've got my section the same length as the other side. I've now filled in the section, and I've brought it down to the same depth as I had on the other side all the way around. If you want yours a bit longer, then feel free to do more rows. I'm starting to run out of cord length, so I'm stopping here. The depth of my bag is measuring about 6.5 inches, or that would be about 16.5 centimeters. And my width is about 7.5 inches, or that would be about 19 centimeters. So let's take out any pins that you had to keep your macrame in place. And we're going to move these straps over to the side of our board. So you can see on our strap here, there's the middle one of our 3 that we ended our strap on. And that's sitting on the edge of my board. We want to bring our macrame down so it's about 1 inch past the end of our board if you're working on a board. And just to hold this in place, I'm going to just put a pin in where that middle one is of the 3 and just poke a pin in there and just keep that in place for now. And let's go around to the other side. Same thing on our other side for our strap. I've just grabbed a couple of my jars just to keep this steady for you for filming, and you might want to use it as well for when you're tying your knots at the end of the bag. So we found our middle. I'm just going to follow that down and make sure I've got the middle all the way down. And there's my middle there. And here's the 2 square knots on the end. We are still going to do our alternating square knots because we want to have a good enclosure on the bottom of our bag. So for our first end side knot, we are going to take 2 away from the right and 2 away from the left. And our first join will just be with 4 cords. So all we're going to do is just fold this over and bring our loops through And you want to cinch that up right to the top by holding your fingers right up close to the knot and pulling down on the cords. Once you've ensured that you're up nice and close, then you can come in and you can pull down on each of your cords and tighten it up, making it look pretty. That was our first knot. Let's just put that out to the side here. Here's the ones we did not include in that first knot. Now we're going to start pulling both sides together. So let's put these up here for now. And let's come in, find our next square knot. Here's our next square knot. Take 2 of the left ones from that side and find your square knot on the left. And then take your 2 furthest right cords, and those are all going to come together, and that's going to be our next tie off. So again, let's bring this loop over and bring them through. Hold your thumb up right to the edge, bring it down, and just ensure that your knot is right up to your square knot on this side, and your knot is right up to your square knot on this side as well. Once you've ensured that it's right up nice and tight, cinch it up, and then again, pull down on all these cords. There's some that are a little bit loose here, so you just go in and you try to find those ones and give it a good pull, and you can see that that's cinched in. There's another one that's a little bit looser. It's a gray one, so I'm looking for a gray one just to pull down a little bit tighter and cinch it in. There we go. That's cinched in nicely. So now we've got that one done. Put that aside. Again, the 2 that you didn't put into that knot from that last square knot, those are your 2, and take the next 2 from the next square knot on the right side. There's my 2 there, and the same on this side. Find your square knot. Here's your 2 that you left behind. Those go in, and the next 2 on the far right, and you're going to take those 2. Again, in total, we actually have 8 cords that we're putting into our knots now. And continue to do the same, joining your front and back together until they're all joined in, and your very last corner will only have 4 cords, not 8. Once you've got all your knots tied, I'm just securing it to the table so I can cut my fringe. Just pull down on all your ends, make sure they're nice and straight. I'm looking in here to see where my shorter ones are. I've got some short ones in here, so I'm just going to go in and measure that. And we're looking at that at being about 4.5 inches or 11.5 centimeters. And then I'm just going to come over to the edge here, and I'm going to mark off with a piece of tape where my 4.5 is coming to. And the same on the other side. Just measuring it here and putting my tape at my 4.5 mark over here. I'll just come through now with a solid piece of tape, matching up my other pieces, putting that down on the table, and then I've got a nice guide to make a nice straight cut with my scissors. The scissors don't make the best cut, but when you have this all flopping around, you are not going to tell that that's not perfectly straight. But if that really bothers you, just lift this up slip under a cutting board. Bring it back down. And you can come in with a rotary cutter and cut it absolutely perfectly straight, if that's your thing. And there you go. So at this stage, you pretty much have a beautiful macrame small bag that will fit your phone or wallet, keys, whatever, and you'd be set to go. If you want it more secure, then you can add a drawstring across your top row here. And this design allows that to work beautifully because you can go in and out of these holes that your square knots have made. So if you want to watch the drawstring portion, then continue watching. I already had this cord that I bought from the dollar store, so I'm going to use this. It's nice and smooth, so that will glide nicely through for your drawstring. I've cut 2 lengths at 1 yard each, or that would be 92 centimeters. You'll also want some Scotch tape and some pliers to help you pull the cording through the small opening of the bead. To keep my drawstring nice and tight and in place, I'm going to be using some small wooden beads. This is a value pack that I picked up from Michael's from Bead Landing. You obviously won't need a lot of these beads, but I had them on hand, so I'm going to use these ones. It doesn't really matter what size of bead you use, but the important thing is that you want the opening to be quite tight when you've got your 2 pieces of cord going through. And that's why we need the pliers to assist in getting that through. You want this to be tight enough that it's going to stay in place. So I'll be using 2 of the little bit larger ones, and I might choose to put some of the smaller ones on the end of the cording just to be decorative. And using a safety pin will help to guide your cording through our little holes in our macrame design. So I'll just thread that on. And let's start at one of the handles. On your handle here, here's the 3 that we joined with, and there's your middle one. So I'm going to start there, and I'm just going to weave it in and out of all the holes until we get back to that first point again. And when you come to where you first started, you'll notice that when you come in, you won't be coming through the same hole because that's just how many areas I had designed the bag for. I originally didn't think about the drawstring, and that came as an afterthought. So it's all good. So you've got the one coming through this way. So you can just take your safety pin off this side, and let's put it on the next one, and we'll go through again the opposite way. Here's your loose ends on this side. So we're going to start on the other side, and let's go into the middle hole again, and again around we go, threading it through. And that's where we started. So we're just going to come through this one more, and we'll end there. Take out your pin. So now you should have 2 loose ends on each side of your bag. So I want you to offset your 2 cords just slightly so it's easier to guide these through the small hole of the bead. I'm taking a piece of Scotch tape, and I'll wrap it around the first part of them to make sure these 2 are secured really tightly together, because you don't want them moving apart. We need to pull those both through. So just wrap around your tape really tightly, and then angling it up until it forms a nice little point on the end of your tape. Like so. Grab one of your beads. Like I said, this is the important part, is to find a bead that's going to be tight, but not so tight that you can't thread these on. So if it's tighter than mine, you can use a pair of pliers to pull this through. I'm able to get this through because I've wrapped that tape really nice and tight. But if you need the extra support, then grab your pliers and pull it on. And you don't need that tape anymore, so that can come off. We can just pull it like so, or even slide it right off and it will come off. Do the same for the other side. Now take your bag and just really open it up and make sure it's not tight in here, because you want to be able to get your items inside your bag. That is where you're going to add your bead. So just bring your bead up to that point, both strands even, and that's where it's going to stop, right there. And then just tie a knot right below where that bead is. And the same for the other side. It's stretched to here. My bead's going to go right up to the edge there, and that's where I'm going to tie my knot. And the reason I've done that, as you'll see, is when you do the drawstring, it closes quite nicely. But if you want it more secure, these beads will really help to keep it cinched in. And once that's together, you'll find it stays nice and tight. So now that you've got those beads on, feel free to add more decorative beads to the ends of these strands here on the bottom here. And I think I might just do that just for fun. So again, if you can't get that threaded through, then do use the tape trick that I showed you how to do. So I can just thread that right through with no problem. I'm going to bring that right up to the other knot, tie another knot. It doesn't have to be right up to the other knot. It can be loose, and so it's got a bit of play just for fun. It's depending on what you like. And again, the other one. And maybe I'll make this one a little tighter and make that stay really close to the knot. So one's higher up and one's lower, just for the sake of the design, like so. Add more if you want to, and if you don't want more, you can just trim off your cord lengths. I'm going to cut this one down and just leave a little bit of a tail on both of them, and do the same for the other side. So I wanted this little bag to hold my change purse, my phone, and my keys. But then I was thinking, well, if I just throw my keys in here, I don't feel real secure. Maybe it would be better if I attached it with a key ring. There's several different types of key rings that you can look for. These hooks I did get from my fabric store, but they're a little bit more costly, $6.19 and $7.99. It's got the swivel hook on it, which is really nice, and the keychain part that I can attach to my bag. There's also this type that I got from the dollar store. So if you want some really inexpensive one, this also swivels, and then you can attach one side to your bag and the other side to your keys. I like this idea because I want to be able to have a quick release of my keys when wanted. So I kind of like this one. It's my favorite, so I'm going to use this one. And just to assist with getting it onto my bag, I'm just going to use the swivel portion just to open up the split ring here. There we go. I can have a nice big space there. So now I can get in here and I'll attach it to this middle section right here. I'll just bring that in there. There we go. And I'll just continue to bring this around until it is on. There we go. We've now joined that to my bag. And I can put this one back on now. And I've joined this. Well, I'm very happy how my little bag turned out, and it's exactly what I was looking for and what I needed. So as I said, I wanted it for my wallet and my cell phone, and we've added my little safety clip for my keys. In they go. And here's my little strings that I can pull on, cinch it up, and if I want more security, in goes my little beads, and voila. Look at that, nice and secure. Well, thanks for following along, and if you're still with me, thank you. And I hope you'll make one for yourself, and it's a nice small version, something that you can carry just a few small items, and that's perfect. It's exactly what I was looking for, so I just thought I would share it with you as well in case you're looking for the same thing. So I've got to go do some shopping, so I'm all set. We'll catch you next time. Bye bye.